We're here, Nervous Rex, with my brother Smoov-E.
What's up, everybody?
Smoov-E.
Smoov, big pause, E.
And your dad calls you Smoothie still?
Yeah. He thinks I'm a fruit drink.
You are kind of fruity.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. You and I are friends before this podcast. We both from the Bay Area, both grew up listening to Too Short,
Yep.
rapping, making beats. And we met when I had a show in Mammoth.
And then Reno.
And we had a couple shows
It
together.
was
Yes.
Tahoe.
We did a couple
Mammoth
shows
and
together
Tahoe.
with Late Night Billy.
Yep.
And me and Mickey Avalon both got on the phone and said, whoever this guys we're doing a show with is the best dude we've ever done a show with. Cut to, you move in with me.
Yeah.
Cut to, we do a whole album together called Breakfast in Bed.
Yep.
Cut to, we've toured all over the place. Cut to the podcast. Here we are. So thanks for coming.
You got it, bro.
Let's start at the beginning for listeners, viewers who may not know about Smoov-E. How was the character born and how you got into rap? Let's just start at the beginning. Let's
Okay.
tell some tales.
I'd say it all started in high school and just predominantly listening to rap music, people like E40, Mac Dre, Too Short, Brother Lynchung. I was definitely a Bay Area supporter. I know some people are that way with their sport teams. Wherever they're living, they represent who's in their close surroundings, whether they're winning or losing. And I was kind of the same way. So if you were rapping from the East Coast, you probably weren't getting played in my car because I was just so about the Bay and what the Bay had to offer. And it just seemed like they had all their bases covered, you know, by listening to some of their songs. They got money, they got chicks and cars, and that drew me into it. And then I just started writing raps myself. Towards the end of high school, would wear headphones underneath my hood a lot so that the teachers couldn't see I was wearing headphones, and just zone out. At that point, I had pretty much given up on my academics, and rapping just kind of came natural to me, even though I was a white dude growing up in some hick town and everybody I was listening to was black and from the hood. It still resonated so much with me to where it was like, I gotta do this, you know?
And you're Jewish, so am I, which is almost black. And it's like we're the white black people, kind of, I like to say.
Sure.
You know, we got big dicks.
Humongous. And
our people have been through a lot of struggle. So I feel like we are the best candidates for Caucasian-ish males to rap. I don't know if you know this, but there was even an era where a lot of musicians, like back in the day, it was like Jewish guys were playing jazz and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like it's kind of in our DNA, so it makes sense. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I think I was born in Tennessee and moved out.
We got to talk about that.
And moved out to California. I have a feeling if I stayed in Tennessee, I would have ended up being a country music singer, songwriter, that style thing. And because of geographically where I grew up and when I grew up, rap was the hip new thing and what everybody was listening to. So that was what I gravitated towards. But I think I was going to end up doing music no matter where. And because I grew up in Northern California and rap was the new hot shit, that was what kind of drew me in. But yeah, I was born in Summertown, Tennessee, on a hippie commune.
Oh, let's talk about that, because that's an interesting story that maybe people need to hear about. That there was an experimental community of 3,000. How many people lived there? A few thousand?
Yeah, a few thousand.
And it was
at some points
a self-sufficient. Yeah, tell them.
Yeah, they had their own farm there, and everybody would pretty much given up their personal belongings to get on there, or sold them, and then put everything in a pot. So it was like communal living at its like utmost, you know. You couldn't bring in like candy or anything like that. Everything had to be shared. They would send people off the farm to go work, and then that money would be put towards buying a tractor or buying a vehicle that everybody needed, or getting medical supplies or something like that. We moved when I was 3 to California, so
so
I don't remember. I don't
Oh.
remember much of it.
Okay.
But there's got to be some stuff going on from 1 to 3 development
For sure.
that sticks with you for the rest of your life.
That egalitarian way of living. Now, you, so your parents gave up on the idea. Did something happen that made them say, fuck this, we're out of this community? Was there dentists there? Like, was there everything you could...
They had their own doctor, they had their own school. Definitely dental work, their own printing press.
Like a newspaper for the news?
They were writing their own books on like how to midwifery, poetry, all kinds of the journey, the journey of the soul or whatever they were writing about. Shit. They would print it out themselves.
This is some hippie shit that I think has been tried a lot, and usually, so the is it still there?
It's still there. It's really? Not. It doesn't function like it used to.
It doesn't thrive like it used to.
It was probably the most successful example of a hippie commune in Northern California,
right, or in Tennessee. But
sorry, in the United States,
in North America.
Yes.
A lot of times, a lot of those things go south because it has a cult element where someone plays God. And
I think the leader ended up having 2 wives at a certain point, and a lot of people went there to avoid the Vietnam draft, which was no longer happening, and they were just ready for a change. I think my parents did what they wanted to do. They had all their kids there, and they were ready to kind of venture back into the world.
Got it. So they moved to Northern California. What part of Northern California?
We were in Vacaville, and then we were in San Diego, San Ramon, Pleasant Hill, and then finally settled in Sebastopol, which is near Santa Rosa, which is really where I spent elementary to high school.
Got it. And that's where Smoov-E was born, the character.
I'd say so.
Okay, so Eli morphs into Smoov-E.
Yeah.
He starts listening to Bay Area rap as a kid. And next thing you know, then you start producing beats as well, because listeners may not know that you produce most of your own music, I'd say.
Yeah.
You produced our whole album, Breakfast in Bed. I just kind of picked the beats with you. You made a bunch of them. We kind of rounded off the 10 beats that sounded like they sounded linear.
Yep.
Let's maybe let's go backwards a little bit to the birth of Smoov-E. Your first album, is this song that we're about to hear a snippet of from your first album?
This is the song that we chose is off my album titled Eli, not Smoov-E. So it was a different direction to take artistically.
Okay.
And it was where I was like suit and tie, slick back hair, doing rockabilly or rock and roll stuff. I had already put out, I think, 7 or 8 Smoov-E albums at that point.
Wow.
And this was like a transition to basically try something else out. I had been playing a lot of guitar at that point and piano, which only kind of fit into the rap world that I was in. And so I was writing songs, just more rockabilly, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly style stuff, which is the song we chose, Baddest Bachelor.
And is this the Nicotina era? Could we just, before we play the song, let's explain that Nicotina signed you to a contract of sorts.
Definitely. I've been working with Nicotina since the first album in 99. So this is about 6-7 years later. And I had him come through to the crib to do a feature. So I'm basically just playing him instrumentals to where he can find something and then lay a verse down that would be featured on a Smoov-E album. And we were about an hour into the session, and he just wanted to take a break. Andre Nicotina wanted to take a break, just stop the beat. Let's listen to something else for 10, 20 minutes, get something to eat, and then we'll jump back, finish writing the verse, lay it down. So I thought it was a good opportunity to play him some of this rock and roll music I had been working on. And I played him the first track. It was called Automobile, and it was just me playing guitar and singing. And into the first verse, he's like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's me." And he's like, "Well, who's playing the guitar?" I'm like, "Oh, that's me." And he just kind of looked at me with like a bewilderment, like, "What?" He's like, "You got any more like this?" And I played him another one. And the session went from getting a feature from Andre Nicotina to him viewing me differently as an artist. And I sent him home with the 2 songs I'd played him. And about a week went by, and he came at me saying that he wanted me to transition into that character full-time and sign a contract with his label at the time under the name Eli, and to do this rock and roll music, which I thought was a huge opportunity. It was just something on the back burner that I do when I had spare time, and really put the time and energy into Smoov-E, who's this Bay Area gangster rapper, you know?
Right.
And having this OG from the Bay hear it and be like, yeah, you probably have a better chance making money and getting famous off the Eli project with the rock and roll rockabilly sound than you do being a white gangster rapper from the Bay.
Right.
I was like, I should probably take this dude's opinion. I mean, he's a trendsetter, you know?
And for those listeners that don't know, Andre Nicotine is sort of a Northern California legend who found a weird lane that your average Canadian college white girl or Midwest, frat sorority chick, they all really got into Andre Nicotine. For some reason, he resonated with a suburban audience.
I'm not sure how he did it.
I don't either.
I've talked to him and his producer, who he used to work with, Nick Peace, about it, and neither of them can reverse engineer it. Like, they don't necessarily understand it themselves.
It's strange. Almost any white girl that you'll meet between the ages of 25 and 40 probably had an Andre Nicotine phase from anywhere in North America. I don't know if it goes outside. I mean, Canada's North, I guess, that region. But I don't know if this is like a European thing. I think it's more of a American-Canadian thing for whatever reason. But
I have friends who grew up in Louisiana and Texas and knew him from high school and college days.
Strange thing. I wonder if he got on like some skate videos or stuff like that can kind of leak into that audience. But anyway,
he was definitely on some skate videos.
That's probably what it was. Let's play a snippet from the Eli Project and see where it started.
You build her up, then I break her down. Such a bad girl in a small town.
Smoov-E.
You build her up, then I break her down. Such a bad girl in a small town. In pound for pound, I'm the baddest bachelor around. In pound for
some pimp shit.
Yeah.
It's been some pimp game.
Baddest bachelor around.
That's me knocking on the piano.
But the story is that somebody's pissed. Someone's knocking on the door because she's cheating on someone, or what? Why was someone knocking on the door? To come fuck? Like in the story.
Yes, another girl.
Another girl
knocking. So
okay, we're good. Thank you, Danny.
A lot of the pimp player spit from Smoov-E transferred over. It's just you got to deliver it. You got to package it totally differently. So it's still the same dude writing about the same pimp shit. But, you play it on a piano instead of using an 808 in a synthesizer to do the bass line. That actual take we were just listening to, I recorded in my living room. Nicotina had paid top dollar for studio time in Oakland, and they had a better piano than I did, better microphone, better studio. We recorded it there. And then I also recorded it in my living room. And at the end of the day, Nicotina's like, we're using the one from your house. It just had the better feeling. Yeah. Even though the piano slightly out of tune and the room wasn't tempered or nothing like that, it just had that.
Captured a feeling.
It had that right vibe.
That's exactly what happened with me and Mickey Avalon when we recorded a bunch of demo songs. He got signed to Interscope. They put him in the big studio, top of the line equipment. It turned in the album. They go, we like Simon's spare bedroom sound better, with a sock on the mic and a fucking in a spare bed like that. Yeah. Sometimes it's the emotion captured, or that day something happens that's magic, the delivery in your whatever it is. Sometimes you overproduce and you lose a little the vibration that happens. That's why when we were recording yesterday and I laughed on the hook, I'm like, we need to keep that. It's some 2 Live Crew shit. Like, that's what people will respond to, is like if you're laughing, they're gonna laugh with you kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So let's talk about Mac Dre, because a lot of listeners he's sort of the big name that you worked with. Let's start from how you met Mac Dre.
Okay.
And so a couple Mac Dre tales.
Okay. Real quick, I was trying to get this dude named Doobie, aka Sugar Wolf, who's like, there's Mac Dre, and then there's like the 3 people underneath him, 3 or 4 people underneath him: Young Lay, Ray Love, Mac Mall, and Sugar Wolf, who were all put out by Mac Dre's same producer, Kyrie. So while Mac Dre was in jail, these other dudes kind of took the torch and ran with it. So I was trying to get a Doobie, aka Sugar Wolf verse. I had a CD with a contact number on it, and I just it was like a pager or something like that.
What year is this?
2000. So I just paged the number. Somebody calls me back. It turns out it's this dude named Coolio, the Underdog, who's from Vallejo, knows Mac Dre, knows Sugar Wolf, and I just tell him, I'm like, hey, my name's Smoov-E. I'm at a Sebastopol, and I'm trying to buy a Sugar Wolf verse for a feature, And he's like, all right, well, you sound legit. I'm gonna give you Sugar Wolf's number. So Sugar Wolf gets back at me and he's like, all right, I can do this shit for 300. And I'm like, 300 is nothing to me. I was selling weed at the time. And he's like, but I'm going to be out of town. I go to Kansas City to do a show. So I want you to give 150 of it to my homie Reek Daddy. You heard of Reek Daddy? And I'm like, yeah, Reek Daddy's on your album. They actually titled the song Reek Daddy was featured on Reek Daddy. So like I knew his name. I knew what his voice sounded like. He was a dope rapper from the Crest Side. So he's like, give him 150, have him do his verse. When I get back from Kansas City, all you got to do is give me 150. And now you got a Sugar Wolf verse and a Reek Daddy verse. And I'm like, down. So I go to the Crest Side to pick up Reek Daddy.
Crest Side is in Vallejo.
Vallejo. Okay. It's like in North Side Vallejo, where Mac Dre is from. I'm nervous as fuck.
White Jewish male in the hood.
In just a bucket, you know, by myself.
In a bucket meaning you're, okay, for those who don't know the Bay Area, that's a shitty car.
Yeah.
And is it your bucket or
it's
you're
my
in their
bucket.
Okay.
It's my bucket.
So you're
just
sort of
driving.
blending in.
Yeah.
You could look like a cop.
Not my skin color
Right.
is not blending in. So I go pick up Reek Daddy, and this dude has like braids in his hair, just looks like the most gangster motherfucker I've ever seen. He's in my passenger seat, and my palms are sweating so bad to where I got my hand outside the window, airing my hand off because my hand's sweaty. So I keep doing this. We're only 10 minutes away out of Vallejo, and he goes, motherfucker, who you signaling? Who you with? And I'm like, what do you mean signaling? He's like, you keep signaling your hand out the window. And I'm like, oh shit, this like, I don't know if he's gonna pull a strap on me or whatever. So I'm just
Strap is a gun for those white listeners.
just honest with him, and I'm like, man, I'm just a little nervous right now. My palms are hella sweaty. And so he's like, all right. And we ended up making to the house. It was definitely uncomfortable for both of us on that ride. And I'm taking him up into the middle of fucking nowhere. We're passing cow pastures and farmland, and he's never seen shit like this. He's barely even been outside of the city his entire life. So we get to my house. Make a long story short, me and Reek Daddy ended up hitting it off, and I ended up producing his next 2 albums. And by the time Sugar Wolf came back into town, he laid his verse down. And it was interesting. Me and Reek Daddy had already developed this relationship. So Reek like allowed Sugar Wolf to come do his verse, and then was like, all right, you go. I'm going to keep fucking with him. He's going to do my albums now, you know? Both these guys knew Mac Dre. And since I was tied in with Reek Daddy at this point, he just called Dre and was like, hey, this cat is producing my next album, wants to get a verse off you, you know, basically do it for me as a favor for me, because he's hooking me up and producing all my shit. So Dre came up just because Reek Daddy said I was a cool motherfucker. And
At this point was Mac Dre. Mac Dre was huge. In the early 2000s,
Mac Dre had
in the
already
Bay.
gone to jail and came out.
And
he
hit-
was huge before he went to jail.
In the Bay. Mostly.
In the Bay.
I don't think he had
Exactly.
the nationwide buzz like Drake and everyone talking about him years later.
Definitely not
Okay,
like that.
all right. But
Definitely,
within the Bay,
but
it's its own world.
he was huge, and then went to jail and came out and put a couple albums out and was basically hitting the scene again. You know, the return.
That was the Thiz era, right? When
Yeah.
you started popping Molly and making that whole Thiz dance. Mid 2000s, early to mid 2000s,
yeah,
right?
yep,
That sound about right?
yep. So
now you're
Dre
now
comes
yeah,
through
yeah.
with his cousin Miami and these 2 white smoking hot model looking chicks who were down visiting from Canada, and they just came through and had me play some beats. Reek wasn't even there, so it was just me, Dre, and Miami, and I was just myself. I wasn't trying to put on a front like I'm super hood or something like that. I was just playing the beats. We were all drinking. I was dancing a little bit for him, just getting a little silly with the Mickey's wide mouths. And I remember seeing Mac Dre's face, like jaw open. And I stopped the beat and I'm like, what's up? He's like, keep doing that dance. Keep doing that dance.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. I figured he'd just slide in, do the verse and bounce, right? He's drinking. They're rolling weed up. I'd given him some ecstasy and some mushroom and hashish. They all take the ecstasy. They start eating mushrooms, drinking beer, and smoking weed with hash in it at the same time. I figured he'd just take it all back with him as like payment for the verse kind of thing and either resell some of it or slowly piece it out to himself. I was surprised to see it how sharing he was with everybody. Like that ounce of weed I gave him was just open and everybody was rolling at it. The bag of mushrooms, he was super sharing with the 3 people he brought. And he was just trying to have a good time, like remind me more of a Looney Tunes character. And I was expecting somebody a little more like tougher and a little more like, I guess I was used to Nicotina at that point, who was pretty cold.
Mm-hmm.
Not asking,
I've worked with him. Yeah, he doesn't
not asking
talk a
you
lot.
too much about your life or
Doesn't
nothing,
smile a lot.
like not smiling, not much eye contact. Like
Right.
Dre was super interactive and wanted to dance. He wanted to have a good time. He wanted to giggle while he was doing it. So he gets up on the mic and he starts talking about the beers in the room, which were Mirror Pond Pale Ale. It was some shit I just had in the fridge from like the night before, and Moosehead Lager. And he throws the 2 beers I brought out of the fridge in there. He throws my name in there. And I think I was so used to pulling words and brand names that I thought were hip or cool because other rappers had already said it. And I didn't necessarily want to be representing my own brands or whatever. I'm like, all right, they're talking about Backwoods, we can talk about Backwoods. They're talking about Hennessy, we can talk about Hennessy. And here he is making this hippie ass beer, Mirror Pond Pale Ale, sound gangster. And so that opened my mind. Not only like, can I be fun and animated in the studio and light and fluffy and truly enjoy yourself. You don't have to be this hard ass gangster, but also you can take that box of Kleenex that's sitting on the table and throw it in the song and make it sound tough. It doesn't need to be this preset, no, you can only talk about malt liquor and Hennessy and cognac and that's it. This dude was throwing in whatever was in the room and made it sound cool.
I think that, as a matter of fact, you were yourself. I don't think the hood likes it when a dude who's not from the hood acts hood. They would rather have you be the white boy novelty and be talking about skating, bro.
Yes.
And that's the kind, or whatever the fuck you really are.
Yeah.
Because I learned real quick, the dudes that try to act hood, they don't want to be around. They're around that shit all the time. They want to be. They want to be around a white boy talking about snowboarding or having the little IPA.
They were actually as fascinated with my white culture as I was with their black culture.
The best shit, dude.
I had a homie come through, just pasty white dude with like Pantene blonde hair, and Reek Daddy goes, "What's up, Andy?" And he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And the whole rest of the day, all Reek Daddy wanted to say was, "Hey, how you doing?" Like making the white impersonation of what this dude Andy said, and we're busy over here trying to impersonate their slang.
Right.
Term. I brought out some weed and I said, "Oh, this is just some swag," and Reek's like, "What's swag?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's bad weed."
Wow.
And he writes that into his verse that day. So there was a little bit of back and forth. We're both fascinated with just the opposite culture, you know?
Right.
And so I continued to work with Dre from then on. Like we had a pretty good first session. I remember going to his house in Sacramento where he owned an old battered women's shelter. It was a piece of property that had 3 like smaller homes with a swimming pool in the middle. And if you ever saw his TV, Trill TV, you see him with like a motorboat in that pool.
I remember that.
So it was an old battered women's shelter. And I'm like, wait, this dude's talking about like slapping bitches on his record. Like, this is interesting that he lives in a battered women's shelter.
Right.
So he had 3 houses. 2 of the houses were straight up studios. Like the middle house was where he lived with his family. He had like 2 daughters or something like that. And then the other 2 houses always going, somebody making a beat, writing a verse, recording a verse, both of them. We jumped back and forth, and I brought some beats up. He ended up using some beats for his projects and gave me a couple verses for my stuff. But Dre was super cool with me, and even on his own album, went out of the way and says, he goes, "No, that's hash, fool, from my white boy partner in Sebastopol."
Dude,
I'm like, he
bro.
didn't need to do that.
Like, that's crazy, man. Because Mac Dre, I think, later had almost become, obviously, he became a sort of a cult figure that people don't really know the truth about more recently. Like in the last few years, when people like Drake shout him out, so this next generation, they just probably think they don't even know what Mac Dre really maybe they might have looked him up and listened to a couple songs. Obviously, the Thiz. What was his big song again?
Thiz Dance.
Thiz Dance. And there was the other one. It's like his main song. It was just like a little riff. He got a couple songs that have been timeless, that have bled into the mainstream, but for the most part, he was never on the radio in like most of America. He's become a legend after the fact that he passed away when he was killed in Kansas City by another rapper.
Yep.
That's what happened, right?
Yep.
And so you're one of the few people that really got stories that got to work with him.
Yeah.
You really got to work with him and got to know him. I bet you,
Definitely.
people probably ask you all the time, but the listeners, that's the kind of shit I wanted to share with the listeners.
Yeah.
And let's tell the quick Reek Daddy story about when he was driving through the woods.
Oh,
and
for sure.
Let's tell that one real quick.
So I was producing Reek's album, and he wanted to get some of his homies on it, so like features, you know? And so I went down to pick him up from the Crest side, and he just had 2 carloads of his homies roll with him who had some rappers in each car, and then some other motherfuckers were just coming along for the ride. And we're going up through like Petaluma and through Katati and going out towards Sebastopol.
Which is nature woods area.
This is all farmland,
Right.
You know? And we pull up in my driveway, and one of the carloads of his homies that were behind us, he gets out and he goes, "Man, Reek," he's like, "I thought you brought me out here to kill me." He's like, "I never seen so many cows in my life, and I knew there was no studio out here, and I just been thinking about all the times I've wronged you, Reek, and how I'm sorry, because I thought seriously you were gonna bury me out here."
Dude.
They'd never seen farmland like this.
They thought
you know?
they were getting whacked on some Godfather
They thought
shit,
they were
some
getting
mafia
whacked.
shit.
They thought. So now here I am in a bedroom studio with 3 carloads of dudes.
Now, what does your mom think about this when didn't Mac Dre and your mom get along?
Yeah, my mom and Mac Dre smoked a joint together.
Come on,
you know?
man, you can't, that's the best shit ever. Didn't your mom grow weed?
She grew a little bit here and there.
Right. Hippie parents. They
Hippie
got
parents.
it. You're like the coolest white dude for them because most average white families, I don't think that they really embrace. But the fact that you had some hippie, cool stoner parents, you know, that
I think my mom multiple times told me, she's like, I don't appreciate the lyrical content of your songs, but she's like, you have a dream and you're following it, and you're enjoying your life doing it, and she was happy to see that. She's
cool
like,
mom.
I wanted to be a singer when I was younger. I had a family and had to give it up. My dad was in a couple bands as a drummer, had to be the family man and give it up. So both of them kind of saw parts of them inside of me that didn't give it up to being a family man and just kept pursuing their goals. So they've always been super supportive, even though the lyrical content is extremely offensive.
I mean, I have the same problem. My mom doesn't love Dirt Nasty. She knows it's a character. I think you said it perfectly. You said, I think I'm 5% Smoov-E, like the shit I talk on stage, like it's in me, but it's not real, like it's exaggerated for effect. Same with Dirt Nasty. It's not something most moms would be proud of, but when I started to make Dirt Nasty music, my goal was I want to make music that your mom would say, turn that shit off. Because when I remember my mom would drive me to school in 6th grade, I'd be playing Two Live Crew, Too Short, or the Ghetto Boys. She'd be saying, turn that shit off and turn it down. So I knew later when I made music, I said, that's what I want to make. I want to make someone's mom say, turn that shit off.
Yeah.
So obviously mom ain't going to like it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of shit that works. Obviously we've had moderate success. We've toured all over the fucking place. It's been good to us. There's people that want to hear that shit, you know?
Definitely.
So you don't want to steer too far away. All right, fast forward to you're living at my place. We're doing an album together.
I'm doing Ecstasy in your shower.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Smoov-E, Ecstasy, Thiz. You never done Ecstasy before. We go to a Justin Bieber party. Take it from here.
Yeah, we're at this Bieber party in like Calabasas, where we basically had to sign a release form and get strip searched to get into this place.
Welcome to Calabasas, baby.
But there was nothing but smoking hot chicks there. And I met up with this little blonde stripper girl, got her number, and a few nights later she came by the crib. You were out of town somewhere doing some shows or something. And she wanted to do some ecstasy.
And you had never done it.
I'd never done it. And I'm like, now's
the time. You're in Hollywood.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm living in Hollywood at Dirt Nasty's house.
Yes.
And I met this little slutty, skinny blonde stripper at a Bieber party.
Come on. This is when you. This is like when you look in the mirror and say, "It's time."
It was time. So we ended up in your shower for like
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours.
Was it my shower or the guest shower?
It was the guest shower.
Okay, that's
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
You could have used my shower.
Yeah. No, it was the middle bathroom.
All right.
And we just were loofah sponging each other for about 3-4 hours.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it was to be my only ecstasy experience. It was pretty fascinating.
Welcome to Hollywood, baby.
Yeah.
Then we're living together, and we decide to do an album. We said, let's do something together. We're living.
Even before then, I just came to visit you.
Right.
And we wanted to do a single.
Right.
So I brought every beat that I had unused on an iPod, and there was literally over 100 beats. So you just started going through them. All right, let's tag this one. Let's tag this one. And we kind of just would write a hook, or like a verse could go like this. And by the end of the weekend, we had over 10 songs kind of fleshed out. We could do this. So you're like, we should probably do a EP or something instead of just a single. Because I just came down planning to do one song with you and go back up north.
Okay.
And a couple months later, I moved in with you, and we already had so many songs picked out and already fleshed out. It was easy to do an album at that point.
Well, the heavy lifting was done. You had made the beats already, so there was that usually is the laborious part of the project is to make the beats, because once you hear a beat, like you kind of just sing a hook, and that can happen pretty quick in the recording, and then the fun starts. So you did all the beats. I picked them out with you, and the definitive single when we were done was Swerve, which we got Tish Hyman on, a friend of ours who's the most talented hook writer,
singer,
beautiful woman, songwriter. We got her on the hook. Let's play a snippet of Swerve, and this one got on. Was it a Victoria's Secret commercial? What was it on? It was like it
was
mileage.
The Victoria's Secret model, but she was doing it for
something. Anyway, it got some got some usage out there. People love this one. Let's hear it.
I'm just trying to swerve. I'm just trying to swerve.
That's Tish right there on the hook.
You know I get the cherries popping. White dude with the attitude.
Not from Compton.
So smooth and silky, leave the
panties sopping.
Yo, pussy still screaming.
That dude was awesome.
I ain't got no wife. I ain't got no kids. You ain't got no life, but you got a baby dick.
I never been polite.
Acting like a prick.
Spitting in your drink, then I'm spitting at your chick.
All right, thank you, Nick. Come on. I think that was our master penis of the album. I actually liked a lot of other songs on there, but that was the one that the world seemed to respond.
Her hook
It made it
happen.
You need a little estrogen on there sometimes. You know, two dudes rapping, it kind of is a good balance. But the beat works. Sometimes it's a little of everything. It's the beat, it's the hook, it's the rap. Sometimes you need all those elements together. But I sincerely believe that was my overall favorite album, beginning to end, that I've ever done. And it's almost like one of those ones that I feel like one day someone's gonna find and be like, what the fuck? Why hasn't this been heard more? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
But one thing I've also learned is I'm always wrong. The shit that I like isn't the stuff that the fans always like. It's the songs that I'm like, I don't know about that one, that are the hits.
Yeah, the My Dicks, the 1980s.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's not up to me. I've learned that.
Regardless,
You
at the
just
end
gotta
of
put
the
out music.
day, if the fans don't appreciate as much as we do, it doesn't really matter. Like, we had such a good time recording that album. You got Too Short over to feature on
we
it.
got Too Short at my house. I remember he was writing his raps, and then I said to him, because I'm still such a Too Short fan, I still can't believe I know him. And after we're done, I was like, "Can you sign that rap that you wrote on a piece of paper? I'm going to frame that." He started laughing. He thought I was joking. I was like, "No, I really want to frame that. And can you sign it?" He's like, "But we're friends now. You don't need my autograph." I'm like, "I'm still a fan, bro." So yeah, no, you're right, and it's similar to this podcast. I don't care if just our friends listen to it. I do it for you. You got to just do stuff like this for you. You can't put stuff out saying, "I hope they like it." You just got to make what you think is dope.
Right.
And that's usually when you win. You know what I mean? Like you weren't making that Eli project thinking, well, they better, you just kind of did what you thought. You just got to do what you
I
do.
was making it before Nicotine even heard any of it, just because it was, I was just following my gut feeling. Didn't have a TV in the living room like most of my friends did to watch football games or network television or whatever. There was no Netflix back then. I just had a piano, a drum set, 2 keyboards, and a drum machine in my living room. And that's if you were coming over, that's what we were doing. We weren't watching a football game.
Right.
We were, you know,
You've never been the sports guy. That's never been your thing.
I
really.
do like high school girls volleyball quite a bit.
And you did show me the pole vaulter. What's her name?
The Italian pole vaulting team
is she
right
Italian?
now.
No, not the Italian.
Yes.
Was she Italian?
Yes.
Oh, I thought she was like Polish. You said
No, Italian.
Oh, I think my Freudian Polish.
Do yourself a favor and check out the 2019 Italian women's pole vaulting team.
And what's the one girl's name specifically?
I can't
Because there's
remember.
one that stands out.
Yeah, she's very special.
She had an ass like a fucking linguine biscuit. I mean, something special was going on with her. She looked like a Brazilian in an Italian's body. Okay, so now after living with me for over a year. I mean, how long did you live? Over a year. And then I sold the house. And while I was gone doing a movie, we had J.E. of Nelly fame, who produced a lot of Nelly's hits, living at my place while it's under construction with you. And I leave, and then you two just start making a bunch of beats. Then he and I did a little EP together. Shout out to J.E.
Yep, love J.E.
He's a genius. And then I sold my house, and then I moved to the West Side, and you got your Hollywood dream, and you moved right to the heart of Hollywood.
That's
and you're
right,
still
Hollywood
here.
and Highland.
And how are you loving Hollywood? Is it still magic?
It's still magic, man. There's especially where I live. I know a lot of people who live in LA think I'm crazy for living there, but since it's new, since Los Angeles is still new to me, this is like where all the sites are at. This is where all the tourists are at. So.
It's like when I first moved to New York, I moved to Times Square, and everybody that was a New Yorker, this is in mid-90s, and everyone's telling me, you don't want to live in Times Square. I'm like, yes, I do. I want to live right in Times Square.
Into it.
And then about 4 months into it, I had to get the fuck out of there because it was too much. But I had to do it. I didn't care what anyone told me. I wanted to live right in the heart of it all. So you're living in the equivalent of Times Square in Hollywood.
Yep.
You're right in the middle of it all. But you can walk around and look at the tourists, and it's a little magic in the air.
There's tons of magic. All the spots I like going out to are right here within walking distance, like No Vacancy or Good Times at Davy Wayne's,
Right.
Mama Shelter. Like everything's pretty much right there, and the people are beautiful.
Yeah, you get good people watching.
Great people watching.
You have some good people watching. So now I introduced you to Mickey Avalon. You guys have done a few projects together.
Yeah.
You've produced a bunch of stuff for him. His last few singles he's put out and EPs you've been behind. What else are you working on? Anything else that excites you or inspires you? We could get into this in a minute. We actually just co-produced this me and Mickey thing we were going to put out. We did that one song together, right? I remember you said, I got some drum sounds, and I kind of laid in a beat, and then you added the elements. Let's actually hear it real quick. There's a third song called, what is it called again?
Shit-Faced.
Shit-Faced. Yeah, let's hear a little snippet of that. This is co-produced by me and Smoov-E.
White boy blacked out.
That's Mickey right there.
All I saw was red. Blue
balls hanging out.
Woke up in an Uber. Driving nude on the back of a scooter. I want a new drug.
That's Dirt
I'm
Nasty.
resorting to put suppositories in my butt. You gotta be ketamine. I'm a purebred pill head pedigree. My name Mickey, I'm an alcoholic. Everybody asking,
You're gonna stop it.
Pop locking with a vodka tonic. You can bury me
In my oxy coffin. All right, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's so co-produced by you and me. We've made a lot of beats together.
Definitely.
We have a good chemistry, if you will.
Yep.
We're all, me, you, and Mickey kind of have the same weird brain. You know, we're all Jewish rapper types, but you and I are also producers. So I think we have a good chemistry that just naturally flows. Would you agree?
I agree.
Have you ever worked with people where it's almost like, I look at it like similar to a woman, like you could see the baddest girl, she's beautiful, everything's, on paper is sexy, but then when you go to make a move, it's like you go left, she goes right. There's no spark, there's no chemistry, but you're like, she's beautiful, I don't get it. That happens often with music collaborations as well. Would you say?
Yeah. When you're working with another producer in the studio, I've had it to where there's somebody I'm working with who I really can appreciate their production and their skills, but they're just a ball hog. They're not willing to sit back and listen to the other person's take on it. They just want to be slam dunking with their tongue out all the time. Those people are extremely hard to deal with, because basically what you end up doing is sitting in a room while watching them produce their own beat, and you're sitting there wondering like, why am I even in the room? Why are they here? Why don't they just do that shit at their own house?
Right.
Why are they in my studio not listening to my say on it? Whereas I think when we're together, we're both very into it, and then hands off to let the other person get their interpretation on it, and kind of like, you lay the drums, I'll do the bass line, you come in with the first key line, kind of back and forth, and then it becomes like the best of both worlds, instead of you just doing everything and me not having a say, or me doing everything and you only laying a hi-hat line or something. I think we're both like, all right, you did the drums, then I'm going to do this, and then back and forth.
Teamwork makes the dream work. This happened when you and I were working on Breakfast in Bed. I remember I would be suggesting lines for you, and you were really fighting it at first because you said nobody's ever written one line for Smoov-E, but you like kind of wrote a line for me as good as I think it was Happy Birthday.
That's the one you wrote for me.
Yeah, and you looked at me, and I remember you had this look on your face. It was like, I don't want to listen to anyone write me a line. You're like, but that's dope. So I never,
I'm like 15 albums deep at this time. Every single verse of mine, I've written 100%. And the way we would do it, if I'm doing a song with another cat, we're in the studio together listening to the beat, but I'm writing on my piece of paper, you're writing on yours, and you really don't even hear the other person's verse until maybe they step up to the mic. And the best thing you could do in a session like that is when they hear your verse, they start rewriting their verse.
Oh yeah,
because you're like, my shit is so dope. You had to go back to the drawing board.
Raise the bar.
So there was that sort of competition where, when I was with you in the studio writing, I'd have maybe one line written on the paper, and you'd be looking over my shoulder, and I'm like, he's all up in my business. Like, what? I'm not even close to done.
Yeah.
And then you start not only looking at my work before it's done, but mentioning, like, giving me ideas on how to not only flow, but how, like, verbally what to say.
Well, I knew your voice, so
and you totally understood the Smoov-E character. I figured the best person to write Smoov-E is Eli Raphael Meltzer. Nobody knows him better than I do.
Right.
When you started writing for Smoov-E, I'm like, he might actually know him better than I do, because you went right for the goods.
Yeah.
Just right for right for the good stuff. And that was the first time I'd ever really co-written or had anybody put their 2 cents in on a Smoov-E verse.
Yep.
And you did such an incredible job, and it's totally changed the way I write in the studio. I'm a lot more open to getting input from other people, and it's easier for me to give input to another artist because I know how positive it's been for me. Whereas before, I'm like, anytime anybody's giving me input, I've thrown it away. So I'm not going to do the same thing to them.
Right. I think that's good to open up like that and let go, and because it's I remember the look on your face. I remember you looking up at me like you were annoyed / amazed / you're crazy for telling me this / but you're right. It was, forget there's a term for that, where you're conflicted. And you're facing it, and you're like, I know this is wrong, but it's right. And that's exactly the moment I saw your face, because it was like you said it all in your eyes.
Yeah.
You're like, this motherfucker's right, but I don't want to. And then it ended up being because I knew your character, and the line was Happy Birthday, you're only 13, but you look.
You're 16. Happy birthday, you're 16, but you look like 18.
Was that
or you smell like 18.
Yeah,
it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's
And you're just like,
it's an
dude.
underage girl reference.
Right.
Typical Smoov-E shit.
Yeah, that's the Smoov-E shit.
That's his jam.
So then you also, for Swerve, we did a video. You created the whole sock puppet thing.
Yes.
Remember you came up with that?
Which was kind of unintentional. You were on a trip or doing a tour or something. I was at the crib, and I had some days off, and like, I like to get creative.
Oh yeah, you did.
And so, like, some day drinking. I went and got a bottle of tequila, and then I went to the craft store and picked up some yarn, and some felt, sharp pair of scissors, hot glue gun. Like, I was ready to. This is like how Smoov-E does like a date with himself. Right. Bottle of tequila, arts and craft store. Go back to the crib, and I made like a fucked up girl looking doll, or
sock puppet.
A sock puppet with like, one of the eyes was a cross instead of an eyeball, so it looked like she was like on some drugs or drunk or something. And I sent you like a little video on my iPhone of me talking with the puppet on my hand, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but I love it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go further, because really I was just trying to entertain myself for the day.
Right.
But once you said and I know you're into like some kind of freaky shit, not necessarily what is mainstream, but you're like, oh, dude, check out this country rapper. I know you like the stuff on the fringe.
Yep.
And I thought the sock puppet, if done properly and to the right song and the right edginess, maybe some drug abuse, maybe some sex with the sock puppets, which we ended up totally achieving. High-fiving, doggy style, pulling on the girl's pigtails with the sock puppets.
We went full on. I came home from wherever I was, and you had that whole dining room table was just covered like an arts and crafts third grade fucking classroom.
I'd be a great kindergarten teacher.
Dude, I was like, this, I don't know what's going on here, but I support it. Yeah. You want to run with this? Let's go. And then we just sort of recorded. For you guys listening or viewing, you can go to YouTube and type in Swerve Dirt Nasty Smoov-E, and you can see this sock puppet video that we're talking about, because it came out pretty special. It was it wasn't the what was the intro that we were hanging with the puppets that were doing drugs with us or something?
Yeah, no. So I'm sitting on the living room. I'm sitting on your couch, and I'm playing. All these bitches follow me, they never learn on the Casio, and you eat some chocolate out of the freezer, which turns out to be mushroom chocolate. Right. And right when the mushrooms hit, you look back at me, and I'm no longer a human being. I'm a sock puppet looking at you like nothing's wrong. Right. And that's kind of the transition, you know?
Great idea. And your buddy shot the video. Shout out to
my buddy Gary Otnello.
Right, and he did a good job.
He did a great job.
And so next up for Smoov-E, what do you see on the Hollywood horizons? You want to do some scoring? I know that. Didn't you do some scoring for some porn?
Yes.
Yeah. How was that? That guy who's
I've been working with Chef. His nickname Chef. His company's called Disciples of Desire. He's on Instagram, even though I think this is his 7th or 8th Instagram, because it keeps getting shut down from
love that guy
from lewd content.
Right.
He's incredible videographer and storyteller, and I originally connected with him to have him shoot a Mickey Avalon music video, because Mickey's character is pretty seedy, you know? And this dude's stuff is seedy as well, but shot beautifully. So I'm like, if I get these two guys together, I think that's a perfect imagery for Mickey. Like how beautiful, slutty, and seedy it is all together. So we met, we ended up not following through with the video, but me and Chef stayed in contact, and he started filming for blacked.com, which
is where black men have sex with Caucasian women with big penises in their little vaginas.
Tiny little blonde cheerleader looking girls. So
it's not racist. It's actually crossing all boundaries of racism. And
I was a big fan of black.com already. That's like some of the type of shit that I'm into checking out. Right. And so he started filming for them, and rather than using music out of their database that they pay licensing fees for, Chef wanted to use some of Smoov-E's original beats. So
it's a marriage made in heaven.
Started making them for him, and that's actually been paying pretty good.
Good. And I could see you doing some because you kind of have a John Carpenter creep vibe in a weird way. I can see you doing some horror movie scoring. For anyone listening out there in Hollywood, if you ever need any scoring, where can they find Smoov-E? Instagram is
Smoov Basket, SMOOV Basket.
What does that mean?
So Smoov-E was already taken by one of my loser fans, like the classic thing. You go to sign up for Facebook and your name's already taken or whatever. So in one of my songs, I call myself Mr. Biscuits or Smoov Basket, the Biscuit Breaker, anything with a lot of B's in it, you know, just as long as there's a lot of biscuits and baskets.
Why is that? Because it sounds good? Because it sounds like bitch? Or is
I think just something about that B word.
It's like fuck, bitch.
I don't know where I got Smoov Biscuits, but I know a lot of people fell in love with it. Like at this point, Nicotina only calls me Biscuits. Biscuits. Like some people, and it's kind of endearing nickname.
Yeah. Rappers need a few
Smoov
nicknames.
Biscuits. So in some song I said Smoov Biscuits, the basket breaker. And when I was trying to get my Instagram, Smoov-E was taken, and all the variations of it, you know, underscore hyphen E, no space E. So I just did Smooth Basket and just made that all like my YouTube, my Facebook, and
Got
everything.
it. Oh, so for people out there wanting to find you, everything's Smooth Basket.
Right.
Any Hollywood filmmakers out there need some amazing scoring because you could do it all. You could do gangster rap, you could do porn, you could do horror, you could do thriller, like some suspenseful
I can do
shit.
some Danny Elfman sound and Tim Burton stuff too.
Danny Elfman, who's that?
He scored all of Tim Burton's films like Beetlejuice, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, that stuff.
So what's in a perfect Smoov-E? Oh, we were going to talk about this. Let's suggest a movie for the listeners.
Okay,
It's gonna be a cool new segment.
suggestion.
But not like you said, not Titanic or Big
Something
Lebowski.
that we know,
the audience might
something
not.
we know they've never.
What's Smoov-E's movie of?
I would say, and I actually watched it last night.
Oh, boy.
It's called The Triplets of Belleville, and it's a French animation. It was made in the I think early 2000s, and they're trying to make it look as much like 101 Dalmatians era, where everything was hand drawn, no computer assistant. So you can just, when it zooms in, you can see pencil lines and ink, and the content of this is super adult. You know, like people are getting kidnapped and there's murder, and just definitely check it out. I don't want to ruin it, but it's called The Triplets of Belleville. It's a French animation.
Okay.
Check it out. And when you guys are done watching it, you should send an email to Simon.
Yeah.
And let him know what you think.
Or just hit us on social media and let us know.
on
DM
Instagram.
us. We check the DMs. Now,
What about you, Si?
I'm going to suggest, now this movie isn't unpopular, but it's sort of maybe only known by fans of this genre of Korean weird movies. Old Boy is the most fucked up movie. I showed it to you.
That shit
You absolutely loved
fucked
it.
me
Let's not
up.
say the ending, but let's just say it's probably the most fucked up twist ending of any movie I've ever seen that you just gutted at the end. So do yourself a favor. And The Triplets of Melville, is that what it's called?
Belleville with a B.
Okay. And Old Boy, that's our recommendations. I can't express enough how I'm a fan, a friend, and a father to you. A big brother,
That's
rather.
true.
So
No, you're quite a ladies' man. I got a question for you.
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So, speaking about you growing up and stuff, like, did you have brothers, sisters, mentors? Were you only child?
Only child.
Okay.
Step family for a few years. So I had a couple brothers that would come in on the weekends in San Francisco. So I kind of had to share my toys. So I had that thing going on where I wasn't like the only child syndrome where they don't share anything. So I had the weekend brothers that I had an interesting relationship with. I'm still in touch with one of them who lives in San Francisco. Then we moved to the East Bay, and I didn't have the stepbrothers as much. So I was left to my own devices. That's where I started freestyling on my friend's karaoke machine and just getting all wild. Like my mom thought moving out of San Francisco would be a good idea because we got to get out of the crazy city, but going to like suburban Oakland was just as crazy. And that's where Dirt Nasty was somewhat born, freestyling on karaoke machines at my boy's crib. And then my mom remarried again, and now you know Alex and so I have a new step family. So I've had a series of here's your new family a few times. So no blood brothers, only child weirdo, which that's why I'm so fucked up and crazy. So it's like a gift and a curse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I could just be by myself, which is the best / worst thing ever, and make music and entertain the shit out of me. Like I could just make myself laugh all day long. I don't really need an audience. I don't need anyone to make me laugh. I could just sit there in this weird head. And so that's sort of my scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It
So
does.
that's kind of the roots of it all.
I was raised by 3 older sisters. And
I knew this.
And in comparison to some of my best friends growing up, they had older brothers. Used to watch them get beat up, just generally bullied like an older brother does the younger brother.
Right.
And I'm just looking at that going, man, you got every time you step out of your bedroom, you might get like in a headlock or pushed on the ground, or they'd hold them down and do the typewriter on their chest. I'm at my house with my 3 sisters. They all got friends over for the slumber party on the weekend. And I'm like, this is fucking heaven compared to what these poor bastards are dealing with.
You got lucky.
So at a very early age, I got super comfortable with just being around girls, talking to girls. I'm sitting there 13 years old and my sister's friends are coming in, looking at me going, we heard we heard boys can pop a boner if they just want to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, totally. And they're like, prove it. And so I just dropped the Nintendo controller and closed my eyes and just pop a boner.
Wow.
You know,
Amazing control.
Same girls are coming asking me if I've ever French kissed maybe a year later. So
Dude, you're
a
lucky son of a bitch.
I think having 3 older sisters and being raised, I'd say I was raised by women for women, you know?
I feel like that was a big contribution to Smoov-E because when you rap, it's very smooth.
Had
it's
this
for the
young
lady.
bro looking at the bow, had to fit her into my schedule, cause she looking back all sexual. Heard I do serve impeccable.
You know what it is? There's a lot of rappers who have got to put on a character's voice, including myself. Like I have to get into dirt nasty, baby. When you just talk, you could just put a beat behind this interview and it sounds like Smoov-E.
Oh, right on.
So I think you have a natural flow that Too Short has as well. And a lot of the best rappers, you just hear them talk and it's like, oh, that's them. I have to kind of get into character. So I think it came natural. And the 3 older sisters definitely helped provide a base for Smoov-E.
I'd say so.
Well, I could do this all day, but I got another podcast after this, so I just want to thank Smoov-E at Smooth Basket singular.
Yeah.
Smooth Basket. Everyone out there, hit him up. Ladies, DM him. He'll check your DM, hit you back, and get into some trouble with you. Right? Can I say
The
that?
8-inch donkey.
Yeah, baby. I love you, brother. Thanks for doing
Much
this.
love, Si.
That's right, baby. All right.